My brother told me to give up my inheritance because I have no family anyway. I signed the papers and left. Months later, when he found out what I did next, he begged me to fix it. When my brother, Matt, sat me down at the dining room table, I already had a bad feeling in my gut. The house still smelled like the faint traces of our parents, my mother's favorite vanilla candle, the leather of my father's old chair. They had only been gone for a few weeks, and yet here we were, already discussing their inheritance. Matt had always been the smooth talker, the one who knew exactly how to spin words so that people saw things his way. Growing up, I had watched him charm his way out of trouble, convincing teachers he had forgotten his homework because of family emergencies, and persuading our parents that I was the one who had broken the kitchen window when we were kids. So when he leaned forward with that familiar look in his eyes, I knew something was coming. "Look, man," he started, his voice soft, almost sympathetic. "I think we both know that Mom and Dad would have wanted me to take care of things." I frowned. "Take care of things?" He sighed, rubbing his temples as if this was hard for him. "You're not married. You don't have kids. You don't have responsibilities like I do." He gestured vaguely toward the family pictures on the wall, his wife, his 2 kids. "I need to make sure they're taken care of. And honestly, you don't really need the money the way I do. It's not like you have a family to support." I just stared at him. That was his angle. That because I was single, because I didn't have a wife or kids, I somehow didn't deserve what our parents had left us. I waited for him to laugh, to say he was joking. But he didn't. "You want me to sign over my share?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. Matt leaned back in his chair, spreading his hands like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "It's the right thing to do, man. You don't have a family anyway." I felt something inside me crack. For years, I had watched Matt take and take. He had been our parents' favorite, the one who always needed help, while I had worked my way through school, built my career, and never once asked them for a cent. And now, he sat across from me, acting like I didn't even count. I looked down at the legal papers he had so conveniently prepared, waiting for my signature. Then, without a word, I picked up the pen and signed. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I didn't even ask for time to think. I just signed, pushed the papers back toward him, and stood up. Matt blinked. "Wait, just like that?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Just like that." And then I walked away. He thought he had won. He had no idea what I was about to do next. I stepped out of that house and didn't look back. It was raining, one of those slow, steady drizzles that soaked into your clothes before you even realized it. I barely felt it. My mind was too busy replaying Matt's words. "You don't have a family anyway." As if my worth was measured by a wife and kids. As if everything I had built for myself meant nothing. As if I was nothing. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the rain streak down the windshield. The papers were signed. The inheritance was his. There was nothing left tying me to that house, to our childhood, or even to Matt. And honestly, that was fine. I had spent my whole life playing the responsible one. The one who never asked for anything, who never needed help. Matt had been the reckless one, the one who made mistakes and got bailed out over and over again. I guess I had been the safety net. But not anymore. By the time I pulled out of the driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. Matt thought I was walking away with nothing. But what he didn't realize was that I had spent years quietly building my own future. I wasn't rich, not yet, but I had saved, invested, and worked my way up. I wasn't about to sink. No. I was about to rise. And by the time Matt realized it, it would be far too late. I didn't waste time feeling sorry for myself. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. Matt could have the house, the savings, and whatever scraps of our parents' legacy he thought would make him rich. I was going to build something of my own, something bigger. I had always been smart with money. While Matt blew every dollar he touched, I had been investing. Nothing huge, just steady, smart decisions, index funds, real estate, a few startup ventures that showed promise. I wasn't a millionaire, but I had enough to make moves. I took what little cash I had left, and poured it into a business idea I had been sitting on for months. A consulting firm, small at first, just me and a handful of independent contractors. I had the experience, the connections, and most importantly, the drive. Within weeks, things started rolling. I worked harder than I ever had before, taking on every opportunity, every project that came my way. My days were long, my nights even longer, but it didn't matter. I was free. Free from Matt, free from my parents' expectations, free from the weight of a family that never truly valued me. And the best part? I wasn't doing this alone. For the first time in my life, I surrounded myself with people who actually cared. Old friends I had lost touch with reached out when they heard I had left. Business partners and mentors offered support. Even a few new connections turned into genuine friendships. I wasn't alone. I never had been. Matt had taken my inheritance, thinking it would leave me with nothing. But in a matter of months, I had built something worth far more than what he had stolen. And then, just when everything was falling into place, the phone rang. Matt. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. By the fifth missed call, I finally picked up. The first words out of his mouth were panicked. Desperate. I need your help. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile forming on my lips. Oh, this was going to be good. I let the silence drag out for a moment, letting Matt stew on the other end of the line. I need your help, he had said, his voice strained, the usual confidence gone. I finally spoke, keeping my tone even. Funny. Last time we talked, you told me I didn't have a family. So why are you calling me now? There was a pause. I could hear him exhale sharply, like he was trying to hold himself together. Look, things didn't go the way I planned. I almost laughed. Of course they didn't. Instead, I played dumb. What do you mean? Matt hesitated, and for the first time in my life, he sounded unsure. The money, it's gone. I leaned forward at my desk, fully invested now. Gone? Gone. His voice cracked slightly. I made some bad investments. Thought I could flip the money into something bigger. But the market turned and then... He stopped himself, inhaling sharply. It's all gone, man. Every last cent. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, letting the satisfaction wash over me. Matt, who had gloated over taking my inheritance, who had treated me like I was insignificant, was now drowning. He wasn't done. And the house? I opened my eyes. What about the house? Another pause. I could practically feel his shame through the phone. I took out a loan against it. It didn't work out. I'm about to lose it. That was it. That was the moment I knew. Matt wasn't just desperate. He was ruined. He had blown through everything, our parents' savings, the house, even the assets he thought made him untouchable. And now, with nothing left, he was crawling back to me. For a second, I thought about all the times I had helped him before. The times I had bailed him out, covered for his mistakes, cleaned up the messes he left behind. But not this time. No, this time, Matt was going to learn what it felt like to stand on his own. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair. That's rough, Matt. Please, he said quickly, his voice breaking. I just need a loan. Something to keep the house. You've always been good with money. You can help me, right? I thought about how easy it would be to say yes. Then I thought about the words he had thrown at me the last time we spoke. You don't have a family anyway. I let the silence stretch out just long enough to make him sweat. Then I said, voice cold and steady. You have no family anyway. His breath hitched. What? You said it yourself. I said, my grip tightening on the phone. I don't have a family. So why would I help you? The silence on his end was deafening. Then, without another word, I hung up. Matt had made his choices. Now he had to live with them. Hanging up on Matt should have felt like the final nail in the coffin, but I knew better. People like him, entitled, selfish, and desperate, never give up that easily. And I was right. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages. Missed calls. A long, rambling voicemail from Matt, his voice frantic. Look, man, I get it, okay? I messed up. But I need you. Please, just hear me out. Delete. Then a text from his wife, Jennifer. Jennifer. I don't know what happened between you two, but Matt is in a really bad place. Please call him. Ignore. Then, finally, a text from an unknown number. But I knew exactly who it was. Mom. Family forgives, honey. Please don't turn your back on your brother. I stared at the words for a long moment, then let out a breath of laughter. Family forgives? Where was that sentiment when Matt manipulated me into signing away my inheritance? When he looked me in the eye and told me I didn't deserve anything because I had no family? It was funny how people only seem to remember family when they needed something from you. I put my phone down and went about my day. My business was thriving. I had new clients, new investments, and a circle of people who actually valued me. My time, my energy, it all went to things that mattered. Matt's problems? Not my concern. Or at least, that's what I thought. Until I walked into my office later that afternoon and found him waiting for me. Sitting in my lobby. Looking like hell. His suit, one of the expensive ones he used to flaunt, was wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and the cocky confidence that had defined him his entire life was nowhere to be seen. The receptionist looked at me, uncertain. He, wouldn't leave. I sighed. It's fine. I walked over, and Matt stood up quickly, like he was afraid I'd leave before he could say anything. Just 5 minutes, he blurted out. That's all I'm asking. I crossed my arms. Go. He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. Look, I know I don't deserve anything from you. I screwed up, okay? I was selfish, and I was wrong. But I have nothing left, man. The house is gone. The money is gone. Jennifer, she took the kids and left. His voice wavered. I have nowhere to go. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just nothing. You made your choices, Matt. His eyes flickered with desperation. I know. And I was wrong. But please, just give me one chance to fix things. A job, a loan, anything. I took a slow breath. Then I leaned in, just enough that only he could hear. This is the part where I say, you should have thought about that before you betrayed me. His mouth opened slightly. But the truth is, Matt, I don't care anymore. I stepped back, nodded toward the door. Now get out. He stared at me, as if waiting for me to change my mind. But I didn't. After a long moment, he lowered his head and walked away. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. The moment Matt walked out of my office, something inside me shifted. For years I had lived under the weight of my family's expectations, the unspoken rule that I would always be the one to sacrifice, to pick up the pieces, to fix what others had broken. I had spent my whole life playing the role of the responsible one, while Matt lived recklessly, knowing someone would always be there to catch him. But not this time. This time, he was on his own. And I had never felt lighter. That night, I went out with some friends, real friends, the kind who had been there for me long before money or success. We celebrated a big contract I had just landed, a deal that put my business in an entirely new league. As we sat around a rooftop bar, laughing over drinks, I took a moment to just be. To exist without guilt. To enjoy what I had built. You're different these days, my friend Alex said, clinking his beer against mine. Less stressed. More you. I thought about that. Maybe he was right. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself. No more chasing my family's approval. No more being the safety net for people who only saw me as a convenience. I had built something real, something that was mine. And I wasn't about to give any of it away. As the night stretched on, my phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. Mom, Matt is in a motel. He has nothing. I don't know what to do. I stared at the message for a long time. Once, I would have felt guilty. I would have second-guessed myself, wondered if I was being too harsh, if I should at least help him get back on his feet. But I wasn't that person anymore. Matt had made his bed. Now he had to lie in it. I slid my phone back into my pocket and turned back to my friends, pushing the past where it belonged, behind me. I had a future to focus on. And Matt? Matt had his consequences. A week passed. Then 2. I thought that was the end of it. Until one evening, as I was locking up my office, I stepped outside and found Matt waiting for me. He looked worse than before, hollow eyes, unshaven, the expensive lifestyle he once flaunted now nothing but a memory. "Please," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Just hear me out." I sighed, already exhausted. "Matt, I'll do anything," he cut in. "I'll work for you. I'll pay back everything I took. Just please, man. I have nowhere else to go." I studied him, trying to find even a shred of the brother I once trusted. But all I saw was a man drowning in the consequences of his own greed. "You don't need me, Matt," I said finally. "You need to fix yourself." His face crumbled. "I don't know how," I exhaled, shaking my head. "Then you'd better learn." And with that I walked away. This time for good. Matt didn't follow me this time. He just stood there, watching as I walked away, his shoulders slumped in defeat. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I had spent years believing I owed him something, believing that because we were family, I had to forgive, to help, to fix. But family isn't about blood. It's about respect. About loyalty. Matt had never respected me. He had never been loyal. And now, he was facing the cost of that betrayal. A few days later, I heard from mutual acquaintances that he had left town, supposedly to start over. I didn't ask where. I didn't reach out. Whatever happened to Matt from here on out wasn't my concern. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward. My business continued to grow, my investments flourished, and for the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by the past. One evening, as I sat in my apartment looking out at the city skyline, I thought about how different things could have been. If Matt had simply treated me as an equal. If he had valued me, not just as a source of money but as a brother. He could have had everything. But instead, he had nothing. And that was entirely his fault. Months passed, and Matt became nothing more than a distant memory. At first I thought I might hear from him again, that he'd try one last time to manipulate me, to guilt me into helping him. But he didn't. Maybe he finally understood that I wasn't going to save him this time. Maybe he found someone else to leech off of. Either way, I didn't care. Because I was finally free. Without the weight of my so-called family dragging me down, I thrived. My business expanded faster than I had ever imagined, pulling in clients I once thought were out of reach. The money I had invested wisely over the years was now paying off in ways I never could have dreamed of. And the best part? I had built all of it on my own. No inheritance. No handouts. Just my own work, my own intelligence, my own perseverance. One evening, I got a call from an old family friend, someone who had known my parents well. He had heard about Matt's downfall and was calling to check on me, to make sure I was okay. "I heard what happened," he said, hesitating slightly. "Must be tough, seeing your brother lose everything." I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window at the city I had made my home. "No," I said, my voice steady. "What's tough is realizing it took me this long to walk away." There was silence on the other end, then a quiet chuckle. "You did the right thing, son. Some people don't deserve a second chance." I didn't need him to tell me that. I already knew. Because for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was meant to be. And I had no regrets. A year later, Matt was nothing but a shadow of the past. I never saw him again. From what little I heard through old acquaintances, he had burned through whatever goodwill he had left. Jennifer never took him back. His kids barely spoke to him. He bounced from job to job, city to city, always looking for the next easy way out. But there weren't any left. And that was the difference between us. While he kept looking for shortcuts, I kept building. My business had grown into something I was truly proud of, a company that didn't just make me money but gave me a purpose. I hired people I trusted, people who worked hard, people who deserved success. I surrounded myself with friends who actually cared about me, who celebrated my wins without jealousy or expectation. For the first time in my life, I was completely, undeniably happy. One day, I found myself back near the neighborhood where Matt and I grew up. I hadn't meant to go there, It was just a detour, a familiar route I hadn't taken in years. But as I drove past our old childhood home, something inside me stilled. The house was run down now. The paint was peeling, the yard overgrown, the windows cloudy with dust. It didn't look anything like the place where we had once lived, where we had grown up under the same roof but in two completely different worlds. For a long time, I just sat there, staring. I thought about my parents. About the way they had favored Matt, the way they had always made excuses for him, the way they had taught him, intentionally or not, that he could take and take without consequence. And I thought about the moment Matt had sat me down and told me I didn't deserve anything. "You don't have a family anyway." That was the moment I had let go of the past. But this was the moment I truly moved on. I didn't hate him. I didn't wish him harm. I just didn't care anymore. Matt had made his choices. I had made mine. And at the end of the day, life had given each of us exactly what we had earned. With one last glance at the house, I put my car in gear and drove away. This time, I didn't look back. Because my future was ahead of me. And for the first time, I knew it was mine alone.